For the carburetor cleanup, you'll need needle-nose pliers and an 8mm socket wrench. Start by standing on the right side of the bike. Before beginning, be sure you have emptied all of the gas from inside of the tank. Use a pair of needle-nose pliers to take the clamp off of the fuel line. Pinch and move back. Pull back the fuel line to inspect for cracks, tears, and anything else out of the ordinary. Take the air filter housing off. The vacuum line will be attached to the back of the air filter housing. Slide off to remove. The air filter gasket may be stuck to the housing or remain on the carb. Inspect for tears or damage. Slide the carburetor forward on the studs. Carburetor will then slide off completely. There will be another gasket on the back of the carburetor. It may also stick to the carburetor. Be careful when removing it. Do not tear the gasket because it can be used again. The governor arm is located on the left side of the engine. It will also need to be pulled back slightly to get the carburetor completely off. From the top of the carburetor, disconnect the L-shaped linkage and spring. Use caution when removing the spring. Try not to stretch it too much. There will be a thick, black bushing located behind where the carburetor was attached. Slide off to inspect for damage and put immediately back on the bike. To disassemble the carb, you will need a 10mm wrench and a small flathead screwdriver. Remove all gas from the carburetor. There are two 10mm bolts located on the bottom of the carb bowl. The bolt located in the center is holding the bowl on. The other is the drain plug, located directly under the fuel line connection. Using the 10mm wrench, remove the center bolt. Remove the bowl from the body. Look inside to ensure there is no water or rust. There will be an O-ring gasket between the top of the bowl and the body of the carburetor. Remove and inspect for any damage or dry rot. If there is damage visible, it will need to be replaced. Push the pin that is inside the float either way to remove. Lift out the float with the needle valve still connected. Inspect the needle valve for grooves or dents. If these are visible, carburetor will need to be replaced. Inspect float, shake slightly to make sure there is no liquid inside. If there is, carb will need to be replaced. Take the flat-headed screwdriver and looking down inside of the carburetor, unscrew the jet. Be very careful with the jet and stack. They are made of brass and can break easily. Turn the carburetor over and lightly tap to remove jet completely. There will be two pieces, the jet and the stack. Now you'll need carburetor and choke cleaner. Any brand will work. Take the body of the carburetor and spray cleaner through all the holes, including where the needle valve and jet were located. Be aware that no matter where you spray the carburetor cleaner, it will come out somewhere. Spray off the entire carburetor to clean it up. Drop the jet threads down into the center hole. Use the screwdriver to gently screw the jet until it is snug, not tight. Careful with the jet and stack. They are made of brass and can break easily. Float, with the needle still attached, set back over the port. Set the needle back into the hole where it goes. You may have to wiggle the float to line the holes up so the pin goes back through smoothly. Look at the float. Make sure it is sitting level with the body. If it is not sitting level, the needle spring may be damaged. In this case, the carburetor will need to be replaced. Locate the O-ring. It is slightly triangular shaped. One side has a rib. Make sure it is facing up. Stretch slightly and put back in body groove. Set bowl back over the body and make sure it sits level. Make sure the drain screw is on the same side as the fuel line. Put the 10mm screw back and tighten with the wrench. Make sure the bowl is tightened down flat, but be sure the O-ring is not visible anywhere. If the motor is surging, there is a black cap. Pop it off to reveal the idle set screw. Remove the idle screw with the flathead screwdriver. Look at where the screw was located originally so you can make sure to put it back exactly the same. Pry the black air jet out. Inspect the two tiny O-rings on the sides and clean inside. The brass insert has a tiny hole. Spray cleaner inside. After cleaning, push the jet back inside and tighten the idle screw back inside to its original location. Tighten until the screw can be seen touching the arm on the inside. Using a pair of needle-nose pliers, reconnect the L-shaped linkage to the large hole of the carb, with the spring going in the small hole. Pull governor arm forward until you are able to slide the carburetor back on the studs. Make sure the vacuum line is not in the way. Slide the carburetor all the way forward to the gasket. If the linkage gets bent, just bend it back straight. Put the front air cleaner gasket back on. Slide the air housing back on the studs, holding the vacuum line out of the way so it'll slide forward smoothly. Using the 8mm wrench, screw the nuts back on. Snug but not tight. Ensure both sides were tightened evenly and the housing is secured and straight. Replace the foam filter and cover. It should pop back on easily. Attach the fuel line. Make sure to secure on the brass fuel fitting. Put the fuel hose clamp back on. If the idle screw was removed, crank the motor. It won't idle without the throttle. Turn the idle screw clockwise until you no longer need the throttle to idle. If the idling is too fast or the bike won't sit still, turn counterclockwise to slow the idle.